to say, it is my belief that most of you have been able to practice, also look through some of those things that we were able to tackle. Of course, most of those things need practice, but your free time you can dive into as long as you have internet. Good to go. And today's session is one on an introduction to fact-checking, which is overseeing the aspect of fact-checking and why it is important, what are the challenges, what are some of the examples of the information disorder, and things of that sort. So our trainer for today is Ochai Jackson. Ochai is already in the room. Are you getting me?
Yes, Bida, but your voice is not audible enough.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you are getting me. Now, over to you with the rest of the session. Okay.
Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are seeing it clear.
Okay. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, very good afternoon to you, and you're welcome for today's session. My name is Ochai Jackson Amos. I'm a fact-checking journalist currently. Coming to you live from the DeFi head office here in Juba. So today we are tackling introduction to fact-checking, and under introduction to fact-checking, we have other subtopics or subsets that we are going to look into. One of it, we have fact-checking. Yeah, we have fact-checking. And the second is that we have fact-checking elements. We have information disorder. We have approaches to fact-checking, difference between fact and real news, dangers of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, and how to fight misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Then we are going to look at why fact-checking is important, and the challenges or limitations fact-checkers face, tools used in fact-checking, ethics, and code of conduct for fact-checkers. And finally, we'll look at the legal obligation in fact-checking. So if I'm very fast, you let me know so that I would adjust. And also if I'm very slow, you also let me know. Any question, anything you raise, I put it in the chat box, and Bida will be able to read it for us and raise it so that we see way forward out of it. So let's dive into introduction to fact-checking. Fact-checking is all about verifying the accuracy of any information that comes, whether online, social media pages, Twitter, Facebook, or sometimes mainstream media. You have to go through the information that they present to the public and at least try to find out if it involves some kind of accuracy by cross-checking the evidence, the references they used, where they gathered that information. It also involves researching the accuracy of statements, verifying the sources, and ensuring that the facts are presented correct. So for example, most of the media houses and social media, they like quoting statement made by someone, either public figure or celebrities and all these. So those statements, you have to research if in fact that person made the statement, and if so, under what circumstances that statement was made. So those are the things as a fact checker you have to look into. So it is very important component of information whereby always accuracy and reliability is required. So mostly fact checkers, if you're a reader, you are consuming information online, you have the eyes of fact checking, then you will be able to spot many mistakes or misinformation or disinformation that's involved in that information by going through and analyzing the context under which misinformation is spotted or disinformation is spotted. So next, when fact-checking, there are elements that you look at. Information has been presented by a certain media house, but there are elements that you have to look into to confirm that this information is true or false, or it's disinforming, or it has element of malinformation. So you have to cross-check the sources where that media house got the information from. And you verify the dates. Is it the current date, or it has been something that has been presented earlier and today it's a repetition, or there is a mistake that is going on. So these are the things you have to consider. Then you look at the situation, this information, what context does it hold on the public domain? Was there something that happened, or is something going to happen? So you need to research or dig deep into the context of that information. Hello? Are you guys getting me?
Yeah, you can carry on.
Yes, we're getting it.
Okay. So I stop at researching the context of a situation. Most of this information we get on media platforms, it has context. Either an event happened somewhere, or somebody is trying to fake a situation and present it to the public. So as a fact checker, you have to look into the context of what happened, or what has happened, or what is going to happen, in order for you to have a healthy consumption of information. So you have to examine if in fact the person providing the information has some bias, or you as a reader or a fact checker, you have your own bias, so that you balance the accuracy of that information, the reliability and integrity of that information. Next. We have information disorder. Information disorder almost the same as information pollution. It is a term used to describe false information or inaccurate information that is being spread online or on mainstream media. And this type of information often goes viral on social media, blogs, website, and other channels. And you know, when something is negative, people like sharing or forwarding to other platforms so that it goes viral, so that it gets wider audience consumption. But as a fact checker, you have to look into that information. Does it involve all the content to qualify it as a true information, or it is something that has disconnect that makes it not to qualify as accurate information? So by looking into how the information is, then you will be able to spot the information disorder that is involved in it. It's a very harmful, very harmful strategy whereby most of actors used to manipulate the information that public consume, and they try to influence the audience toward specific objective that they want to achieve. So as a fact checker, or whoever you are, or information consumer, you have to be very, very critical by analyzing the information. If in fact it's a true information, or it is a widespread lies that is being advanced to achieve a specific objective by an actor. So information disorder, it has dangerous effects by, for example, you'll get an information talking about a certain drug not to be fit for human consumption, and yet that narration has not been satisfied by health body or any health officials. Then that information is being forwarded, but somebody somewhere who has no knowledge of how to check or how to verify information will automatically accept that false information. Then at the end, we end up having rejection or other actions that makes it very hard for community to accept a certain thing. We have seen with the COVID-19, people are hesitant to take the vaccines. All these surrounds around disinformation or information disorder about COVID-19. People don't want to be vaccinated. Even others refuse even to go for it, simply because misinformation or information disorder about COVID-19 has spread in our society. Next, we have the categories of information disorder. One is misinformation. This misinformation is any false information, but not with the intention to harm anybody, but it has the element of misinforming the public. It can be committed by omission or by mistake. By omission means somebody present information, but he or she doesn't know that it has some mistake or it has elements of misinforming the public. So it means the information that person has not commissioned or authorized this or authorized to make that mistake, but unconditionally it has happened to be misinforming the public. Then that person, if it is a main media house, the person may apologize or may correct that statement or the information that has come out. But on social media, of course, there are very many platforms which are not officially, but they spread false information. Then it has the element of misinforming the public. You'll have a situation where an event has happened in another country, but somebody on the social media will post that this situation has happened in a country like South Sudan. And when you fact check, you'll get that this photo was taken in another country in a different context, but they use it to influence or to pollute the information environment. Then the second thing is we have disinformation. This is false information spread with intent, with the objective to harm. The person has intended to damage or to mislead the public by bringing up information that does not make it to be true information. Information that is largely meant to tarnish the image of an individual or an institution. So it is informed the society by presenting that information to the public. Then now we have malinformation as one of the categories of information disorder. This is when information that is not meant to the public and it's being shared on public domain. For example, the privacy of someone that has not authorized it to be made public, but somebody somewhere came across it or it has been leaked to that person to tarnish the image of this person, then that information go into public domain. We have come across sex tapes that has gone viral about an individual having affairs in a private space, but that information comes out. Some of those information is released to make that person who did that video or the people in the video to have shame in the society, to tarnish their image or to degrade their integrity. These are a very dangerous act, which is by law also, it is not authorized. So there are people who have, they take photos when they're naked and they send to their loved one, for example, people in love. So they have that affairs of taking nuts photos and they share. These are very dangerous. Once it leaks out, then actors picked it from there and make it to public domain. And yet you did not intend to make it for public consumption, for your private consumption, but it has come out. So there are also other private sensitive conversation where you have on WhatsApp or Messenger or on phone. So those information are meant for private consumption, but with the leak, it come out to public domain. This is very bad, especially people who target you. They will try to find out to get your data so that to make sure you are brought down. So there are examples of information disorder, and under misinformation as one of the categories. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Misinformation is one of the categories of information disorder. There are examples that you guys are saying. You'll find that the East African Vibes used a photo which was taken in a hospital in Eastern Equatoria, Capoeira County. So this photo was taken after 2 women gave birth to triplets. All of them gave birth not in the same day, but differently, 3 weeks apart. But it appeared that the photo was used in a certain media platform that in a different context, wherever it said a police officer impregnated his 2 wives, and all of them gave birth on the same day. So you see how they manipulate this to make it more hard for people to understand under what circumstances this photo was taken. And yet this photo was taken in a different situation. So they use that to misinform the public, to misinform the society. But as a fact checker or somebody who has undergone fact checking training, you'll have a clear strategy of how you consume your information. You'll remain in a healthy situation by having that skills of analyzing the context of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. So this is one of the examples of misinformation. Then we have disinformation, which is also falls under information disorder. So you'll find that the vice president, the 4th vice president, Hussein Abdel-Baghi, was framed in a media platform, 64 Tribe, where it reported that Hussein Abdel-Baghi was in a critical condition after convulsing for 2nd time at his residence. And yet there was nothing like that. And that information was just fake. And to make sure that maybe the relative or the people who are following or him as a public figure, to make sure that his name is tarnished or to give him that negativity or to make people feel that actually his health condition is not in a good situation. And yet there was nothing. He was not sick, even he was not airlifted to Nairobi. So it was just fake by that platform. So as a fact checker or somebody who has gone under this training, you should be able to know the accuracy of such information. For example, if you come across, make sure you check other sources. Do they also have the same information as this? If so, what evidence do they have? If no, it means you have to question the integrity of this information. So this is how it goes. Then next, we have malinformation. If you see this photo, this is a private actions done by an artist, but all of a sudden it came to public domain due to this is like they were friends, but after that they had misunderstanding. Then the other person was having the buy data or the data of the other one. Then she decided to make it public to make sure that the passion is the same simply because they disagreed. So these are some of the acts that it is very bad to have some of those things into public domain. So this is just to tarnish him. Malinformation, this is true, accurate information about an individual, but it is not meant to be public. But because of a certain intention or objective to be achieved, then it comes out to the public domain, which is so damaging to the person or an entity who did that. Then we have types of information disorder. Number one, we have satire or parody. This is mostly cartoons, where the cartoons has that element of fooling people. Like it reflects a certain situation, but it is not real. It's just used to fool people. So it lacks that element of truth or accuracy. And second, we have misleading contents. You'll have that the headline talks about different things, but when you read the content or the body of the statement, you'll find that they are not matching. So the content is generally misleading. First, maybe the headline is not matching with the general body. Then number two, there is no evidence in the main content to present that this is really true. Or else you'll find that in a certain situation, a photo has been presented in a certain context, which is different from what happened and or what is being presented to the public. Then there is a false connection. You'll find that there is no connection with information which is being presented and the facts on the ground. So all this, they manipulate to make sure that people consume all the information is polluted to the public, and whoever is not critical then will take that information as the gospel truth. However, at the end, the person may end up consuming false information. Then false context. You'll find that information is presented, but it does not reflect the reality on the ground. What happened is different, and what is being presented is different. All of this, you have to go through fact checks, verify the sources, see the evidence available, and see if the person who presented that info, how credible he or she is. If a media house, how credible is the media house? If it is a page, social media pages, then look at the pages, personal or institutional pages. All these, the elements you have to put into consideration. Then we have imposter context. You'll find that an individual may pretend to be the real person by impersonating a certain individual. We have seen most of the public figures, some of their Facebook pages being created by an individual to fool people around or to scam people around. You'll find that the individual may pretend that he's the real person behind or the real public figure. At the end of the day, you'll find that the person is different. Then that page is being used to make sure that people are scammed or they get misled. Then now we have manipulated content. You'll find content like photos, they Photoshop it and use it for a different purpose. You'll find information from the main source is different. Then you find that in a certain page, it also represents different situations. All these represent information disorder, where if you are a good fact checker, you have to look into all those types of information disorder and try to figure out if there are elements of disinformation, misinformation, or malinformation involved. Then we have fabricated contents. Then they fabricate a content to frame a certain situation that does not reflect the truth or what has happened. All these may be out of context, or they use a certain context to bring it in another way, which generally represent falsehood. So there are misinformation or disinformation techniques or tactics used. One is we have media manipulations. When you read this statement, it represents a manipulation of a media. This is just to divert people's attentions. A bridge cannot sleep. So this statement says he or she went to the Freedom Bridge, and the soldiers told him or her to come back tomorrow morning because the bridge is sleeping, which is not true. This is just to manipulate and make sure the public is misled or society is misled. Then we have imposter contents. When you look at these pictures, we have the logo of UNHCR, then we have action against anger. So you will find that an individual or a certain entity has faked an advert to represent that this advert is from UNHCR. And when you look at the document of UNHCR critically, you will not find those elements of colors, those colors and other things. And if you look at the email, most of these international organizations or NGOs, they have a customized email which is linked to their domain from the website. But you will find that this advert is presented to represent a certain institutions. But when you look down, you'll find the email used whereby applicants are urged to send the application. It is individual email, which is either from Outlook or Google. So all this, if you are not critical, you will be fooled, and you send your private information to an entity who has different intention of using your information. All these are being used by people to get personal information of individuals, your phone contacts, your email, and your address. And that information of yours will be used in a situation to scam either you or somebody who is related to you. This is the strategy of information gathering. Then they sell maybe that information to advance their criminal activities somewhere for cyber crimes and other activities. So it is very, very important for you to make sure to check the integrity of any document that comes around. Make sure you check the website of that institution that is being presented to advertise for a job. Check on their website if they have advertisement. Check on their Facebook pages if they have something of that kind. Or maybe if you have anybody working there, try to call and find out if is it true this institution is advertising. Or so these are things you have to consider. Instead of you rushing, since you want job or you want opportunity, you just go. It's not like that. So imposter, they come as an individual, they come as an institution to scam people, to fool people, or to take personal information of people. Then we have weaponized content. When you look at this photo, this is Lady Kola, South Sudanese artist. She was performing in an event, but the content was weaponized to make sure that she has a damaged reputation. And yet this did not happen. When she was performing, nothing was like this, but this is, they did it just to tarnish her image. So they make sure they weaponize content that represent something negative about an individual or an institution. And most of these actors, they have their own intention of doing this, okay? So they use this to make sure the person have that feeling of shame, or the person is degraded, or the person's actually should not have that open mind, but always feeling ashamed because of what has happened. But if you're a critical information consumer, you have to look at all this. This has been manipulated using different tools to make sure that she's portrayed in a negative way. Then we have factors that drive all these. People are motivated by different attitudes to misinform, to disinform, and carry out malinformation to the public. They want to make money or financial gains. They do this by using misinformation or by using disinformation and malinformation. So they use those strategies. If a Facebook page, they make sure they get many followers, and all this to make sure that they get more contacts with people. And if it is like somebody who is impersonating an institution to get a job, then you'll find that after you send your applications for that job, you'll find that they will send you an email for us to accept or to approve your application. Send for us this money on this number for us to make sure that you are approved. But if you are desperate and you want job, and since you see that this is coming from an institution that is paying well, then you'll be misled and they scam you. And that it has political reasons. If you have been following political events around or inside, you'll find that political opponents, they make sure they use disinformation and misinformation against their opponent, make sure that they are rejected or they have that negativity in society so that their followers reject them. And all this, they used information to discredit their opponents. So the motives behind or factors behind information disorder also comes in the context of political reasons. Then we have a psychological or social reason. You'll find that informations and actors present an information to make sure to brainwash you or to cause psychological torture on your mind. But because you cannot comprehend, then you'll fall victim of such psychological warfare, whereby this information is to make sure your behavior is influenced or to change you. So the actors has that objective of making sure you are influenced from what you're doing to their direction or to their objective, what they want to achieve. Then now we have fame. We have seen people who want to be famous, want to be known, but they used disinformation or misinformation strategy or malinformation to make sure that they go viral on public domain. They make sure that people talks about them every day. If you have seen, there are other artists who Photoshop their photos that they are with top celebrities, international artists. They Photoshop, these local artists, they Photoshop their photos with those international artists, and they frame that they were together. And yet it's being used to make sure people talked about them, to make sure people always, so that they remain relevant in the eyes of society or for their fans to always follow them. Then another factor is poor journalism. You'll find the media is not well oriented with the editorial policy, and you'll find that reporters or journalists are not guided to make sure they produce quality information. In a media house, there are stages where information is processed, from the reporter to copy editor, maybe to managing editor, then after that editor-in-chief. These are the processes, but when all these processes is not being followed critically, you'll find that information may come out, but with the element of misinforming the public or disinforming the public, simply because they do not take a critical look at that information. If in fact it was true or was false, they did not check, they did not go through all those processes. Then we have approaches to fact checking. You may be a fact checker in a certain organization or newsroom where you have a fact checking desk, or you are an information consumer. But if you have fact checking knowledge or skills, there are approaches that you used to consume that information. One of them is make sure you double check the source if this is reliable. Make sure the person or institution presenting the information, if it's from reliable or credible institution. For example, has the information quoted any scholarly journal or government sources or trusted media houses? If no, how did they arrive to this information? So these are the things you have to consider as you go ahead verifying that information. Then also be skeptical of the source. Don't take them as a gospel truth. Oh, this is from this media house, these people, they are always like that. No, you first question them how they get that information. If so, look at if they have any bias from the source or the way they presented their information. Then look at the evidence and facts around that information, if they match together or not. Then document the reference. Document and reference the sources where necessary. Make sure all your information, you make sure you reference them, quote them, where you get them from, plus the evidence, and you match them like that. So if you are an information consumer, look at this process as you continue to consume that information before you share to the public or before you send to anybody. And if you are a reliable fact checker, these are the processes you go through before you publish or you send that information to be published. Then differentiating between fake news and real news. Number one, check the source. How credible is this source? Consider the author of that information. What credentials that person present, or where is he or she coming from? Analyze the date. Some of the information has outdated date, but it is being presented today to represent another different context. And yet it was sometimes back in a different context. If you look at the date, it's different from the date of today. So another alternative is to make sure you check if through this reflect the current in the same. Look at another source if they have that information or not. And if they have, what evidence do they have to match the same with this information or from this source? These are the things you have to look. Then check if you are in any way. Sometimes you are biased or they're the one biased. Then consult relevant experts. Now, if you have check out, this is where you now contact to get another contact from opinion leaders regarding an event or a situation that has happened or information that is being presented. You have to consult a relevant expert in relation to that information. So this is how you differentiate. You'll find that news, the source is not reliable. Even the author reflect all these that do not reflect the. If my network,
Oh, it's too bad.
are you
It
guys
is
getting me?
interrupting. Not clear.
It's interrupting. Let me try to fix.
Yeah, right. So,
It's okay now?
Yeah, looks like.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's fine now. Are you guys getting me?
Yeah, we can get you.
Getting you.
All right. So these are the stages where you look at how fake news is being presented and real news, how they appear in public domain. So these are the stages or the processes where you have to look at to qualify that information to be real information or fake information. And sometimes we consume information, but we don't know the dangers of that information in regards to our life, as being it mental health and other circumstances in our life. So you'll find that misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, they have dangers in our life. One of it being is reputational damage. You'll find that the source or individual spreading that information has caused reputational damage to an individual or an institution. So that information discredit an individual or institution. Then we have loss of trust. You'll find that people who consume information from your source, they may at the end of the day don't trust you because they have already realized that you are representing falsehood to them. They don't trust. And this also may take into another dimension whereby once misinformation or disinformation has overcome society, you will find that even if a credible information is being presented by official source or from credible institution, people rarely agree that this is true. This is in regards to, we have seen one of the example, COVID-19. COVID-19, there are myths around COVID-19, how the vaccines do to the public. And yet, scientifically or health institution, they represent that COVID-19 vaccines has nothing to do with issues people talk about like infertility or other side effects. All this has overcome society and it has made other people not to take vaccine. This is the danger. People have lost trust on a certain institution or an individual simply because misinformation or disinformation has overcome them. So this is now the dangers it has caused. We have incitement or exacerbation of violence. You'll find violence may spread out in a certain area due to misinformation. people have sent wrong information to that area simply because they have a certain objective to achieve, and that has made other people who did not take that information in a good way. They decided to take actions by causing violence, havoc against other people. So these are the dangers. When we share information, we make sure we scrutinize that information, if it is true or false, if it has that element of having dangerous impact on public consumption. Then we have a negative influence. Misinformation influences people negatively. You'll find that somebody who consumes information which is not true or correct, that person may develop an influence toward the objective of the person who presented that misinformation. You'll find that the actors behind misinformation, disinformation, they are achieving their goal by diverting the people, by influencing them. All this because they have that influence operation where they present information to influence people towards their goals. So if you consume information, make sure you take into considerations the elements of fact-checking and other processes involved in order for you not to fall prey for these actors. Then how to fight misinformation or disinformation, including malinformation. Make sure you find out people who are the people behind this information. What category of people are they? Are they credible people from institution, or these are people with malign actions to divert people? Find out the evidence and analyze it critically. Make sure you match the evidence against the context on the ground or the reality on the ground before concluding that this information is true or false. If you don't do that, you'll end up being agents of misinformation by either you being influenced to share that information or to act on their behalf by achieving their objectives. Consider the credibility of that information. Make sure it is true, accurate, and from reliable sources. All this you have to check against other sources if they also talk about this information or if they also talk about this event. All this you have to consider before you share information with anybody or you post even on your timeline, whether Facebook or even to tweet. So you have to make sure you check all this information. If you are a journalist in the newsroom, you go through these processes, analyze it before you package your stories, before then let's look at why fact-checking is communicated to the public in accurate and timely manner. Fact-checking prevents the spread of false information. The moment you fact-check, you will be able to prevent the spread of false information to the public because you look into that information, you'll find that this is not real, this lacks evidence, this misleads, this has element of malinformation. This is dangerous if we share to the public. So the important is it helps the public. This saves life. It saves life and it makes the environment for information consumption is healthy to the public. And it makes every information that's come to the public is reliable and accurate. Also, make sure people have trust from the source where the information is coming from. The moment you check and you find out that this is not true and you presented accurate information, then people will have trust that you are reliable and you are credible. Then this is how you help the society or you help the public to understand the true information. Again, fact-checking, you'll find the bias in information reporting. There's been circumstances whereby even mainstream media, they report false information. But when fact-checkers look at that information reported, you'll find that that information is false. Then fact-checkers again present another version of that information with clear evidence and with clear sources or with clear context how it came about. So they also make sure everybody is consuming the right information on public domain. Then fact-checking makes you or an institution trustworthy and objective in communication. Even people will contact you if there is an event going viral. You'll say, Mr. You fact-check this, there is this going on. Like people who are in the fact-checking groups, WhatsApp, you'll find that many of the incidents being shared on that group, you'll find that an individual is being named to fact-check because that person has shown the credibility or has shown the integrity of giving accurate information, either from an institution or at his or her capacity as an individual. Then, if you are a fact checker, there are challenges that you face, or you are supposed to go, and there are others that block you from going. And all this comes in terms of limitations and challenges. You'll find that an event is happening, and people are asking whether this is real or it is false. And for you to fact check that information, it is very difficult for you to verify. Even you make phone contact, people don't want to give information, or they will say, I will reply you later, or will get in touch with you. And yet this is immediate and it needs real quick action at the moment, but you'll find the person may refer you to be in another situation. This is difficult and it's very challenging if in fact that information is going viral. So you will come late while people already consume misinformation. So the second thing is you will find people have different versions of narratives. You'll find the context of event that happened is different, but the way people interpret it in a society becomes in a way that is far from the truth. But as a fact checker, for you to package this narrative and balance it with the situation, it's very, very hard for you and time consuming at the same time. So you'll find that you'll face these challenges. It can also be difficult to evaluate the accuracy of the information because there are conflicting parties and conflicting narratives on the ground. So for you to establish the supporting evidence, so it takes you time, or you may not even be able to find it. So these are the challenges fact checkers face, or if you are somebody who has undergone fact checking, you have that knowledge for you now to verify, you'll have that challenge of verifying simply because there are other circumstances that block you from doing it. Still, we continue. You may lack access to sources or experts who can give you the real information about a particular event so that you verify and analyze it with what has happened. Okay, so you'll find that you will not have time. Time is very limited for you to finish that fact checks or to go through all the fact checks. At the end of the day, you publish the reports. At the same time, you may not have the resources. Like, for example, you are using Facebook and there are claims going on Facebook, but maybe you are using free data mode. But for you to fact check, you need to have that data so that you upload that photo on other platforms to check or to research more about other sources. So you will not have that resources for you to go through your fact checks. Then all these challenges can be resolved with the right approach and resources. If you have the right approach and you have resources at hand, then you will take your time and fact check and produce good information to the public. Then the tools used for fact checking. Fact checkers, they use different tools, being it digital or from other sources. It comes from different dimensions. One of it is online search engines. Online search engines like Google, Yandex, Bing. This helps you to research information, find out information from other sources. It helps a lot. This is one of the tools that you'll use to make sure you research and find information online. Then you use databases where you go through data repository if it is there, and you check and you verify, or you source the reference from that database, and you quote it with the reports that you have. Then we have a verification checklist. This is, you go through at the list, make sure this is correct, make sure this is in line with the context which is going on, or is in line with the information being reported. Then there are other tools that you use in terms of softwares. This is, you'll get other softwares which is specialized in checking videos, checking photos, even by verifying other statements. You'll have other tools whereby you upload those photos into, then you analyze it. If this photo was used somewhere else, it will be able to tell you this is not the right photo. This photo has been used in a different context, but what happened on the ground is different. So these are the things that you use to verify information. Search engine, you use keywords to search for an information. You check the list of other things online to determine the accuracy of an information. These are the tools as a fact checker you will use. In the meantime, you will all be able to get this tool or to go through it in terms of practical, in terms of practices and other things. You will also be able to access all those tools online. As the time goes or this training is on, you will be able to acquire even these tools whereby you have it in your laptop, desktop, or even on phone. You'll have it, then you do your independent fact check using those tools. So let's have at least a 5-minute break, or if there is any question, you're welcome before we go ahead until the session is finished. Everybody?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ochai, are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you, but your voice is very low.
Okay, great. That was an excellent presentation. I will be sharing the attendance in the chat box, and I encourage everyone to fill out the attendance as we take our break. You can grab a glass of water or take a walk. And if you have questions, of course, you can ask the trainer. The trainer is the chat box. Please fill out.
I can see Deng has raised his hand. Yes, Deng. Mida. Deng Arop, you can go ahead and ask your question. Deng, are you getting me?
Looks like his mic is off. Let him turn on his mic. His mic seems to be off.
Okay, then we have Elikana. Lobur.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
My question was so simple. I wrote suppose there. I was trying to ask. Okay, you mentioned some if an image been sent to the media without clarification of it. Okay, how do you find exactly? Because sometimes the its digits are manipulated with another new uploads. So that was the trick where I had to ask you for. You know, exactly like.
Lobur,
Yes.
Lobur, are you getting me? Yes,
Yeah,
come again with your question. You said digits.
Yeah, because you can find the digits have been manipulated. It's not like the origin IMG. Yeah, so how will you find that? Because sometimes it is always do happen to the media sectors. I mean, you will find someone send a photo either in on Facebook and other sectors. So to correspond on, it's really hard. So which is the right engine to find out the truth about the images that have been sent?
Okay, the search engine, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All these search engines, they give good results if in fact they have it in their database already. But if they don't have it, it means you have to look at the alternative. You have to look into the context of how that information has come about. Or if it represents a certain institution, then you have to reach out to that institution and find out, is this true, or it's something going on wrong? And if it's an individual platform, then you have to look at that individual platform. How reliable is that platform, and who are the people behind that platform? So these are the things you look at. And also, if there are if that situation talks about any situation, then you have to research about if something related to that actually has happened before. This is where you'll go into looking at other journals and other literature to find out if in fact it reflects or it's relevant to what has happened. Let me hope this have answered you. Deng. Deng, are you there?
Okay, are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting. Deng, all
Yeah,
good.
Deng.
Yeah.
Deng has put his question in the chat box. He's asking that what can you do if you have sent your email to a wrong individual or website which claims to be official, like in the example you gave of an imposter that was using the name of UNHCR. That what can you do in case you've sent such?
Okay. What you can do is make sure that email you have used, make sure you change your password. That's one. And make sure you enhance the security of that email. Make sure you set it into two-factor authentication, because you do not know these people who send that, who is pretending to be from an institution. They might be hackers who wants to get into your email at the end of the day to look at what is into your email, or to hack, or to get more information about you. So make sure you change your password and set your security with two-factor authentication. And make sure if they send you any information asking about, like, for you to take action, like they may ask for us to proceed, you send for us this, or for us to register this, you have to pay this, or you have to go this process. These are the things to bait you, to make sure they are the people who are trying to help you, and yet they want to fool you around or to take something from you. Also, make sure you check that institution being impersonated. Try to find out what are the procedures they use when recruiting people. Do they also act like this, or they don't? If they don't, then this could be people trying to do something against you. These are the processes, or some of the things you have to consider. Then, let me know if I've answered.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ochaya. And then there's some question here. The person is asking that how can you locate someone who blackmails you? I don't know what it means by blackmailing, but that is what the question is.
To locate that the person who blackmail.
Yeah, I don't know what the person means.
It's like he tried. He's saying blackmail, meaning blackmail is to either use an information to discredit you, or to do something against your life. Blackmails come into different contexts, but to establish that person, make sure you understand that person has presented what kind of information that person has presented against you. And if in fact that information was true, then you have to find out how did it get out. By the time that thing was happening to you, who was there with you, or who has knowledge of what happened to you or what you have done, and how come it came out. The moment you analyze this, then you'll be able to know if you are in a group and you have done something that was meant private, or you have done something in a place where you didn't know that there was hidden camera, and yet you are being captured and it has been brought to public light. So these are the things you have to analyze, and you have to be careful by doing other thing, your private thing in a certain situation, because somebody may use it against you in future. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. It's me, because Michael, who asked about that question.
Okay.
The reason why I was asking that question is that scenario happened to me. Somebody
Okay.
actually wrote my office emails saying that if Werkos is not going to leave this location, it's obvious we are going to do this to him. And my office has to just book me right away and take me to a more secure life. And where I am is where I will like to get to know how can I be able to trace that person's. Yeah, that's what I mean in that question.
So that person sent you email threatening your life, right?
No, he didn't send it to me. He sent it to my head office right away in regions, that is in Nairobi, and those of Nairobi had to send email to Juba office and say, can you see this happening to this stuff on ground?
Okay. Then you have to analyze now, were you involved in any rank calls with anybody or any competition at the workplace, or you have any conflict of interest with someone outside any environment? So these are the things you have to look at. Okay?
It's all right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't found myself into a competition or into anything. I don't even know how. I don't even know how it came about.
Okay.
But the organization is into checking and doing investigations in regard to the email.
Regard to the email. Okay. But normally in other circumstances, that's where law enforcement agency now come, is because they have that mandate of investigating other circumstances. But as a fact checker, it's very hard to locate the location of anybody who has sent an email or any message. So there is no tools or there is no mandate that can make fact checker to locate the real-time location of that person. This is one of the challenges that I talked about. The other thing you are limited to do. Yes.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a hand from Moses Egidio. Moses Egidio, you can ask your question.
Then I've seen somebody again. Yes, Moses, are you there? Moses, we are not getting you. Bida, are you there?
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead, Moses.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
I like
Moses, you are breaking. Moses, I'm not getting you. Moses, are you getting me? Peter, are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Yes, Moses is not speaking.
You can carry on. You can carry on.
Okay. Sorry that we are unable. Yeah, I see Moga has raised his hand. Yes, Moga, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Mine is quite personal. I'm trying to understand, is there a body that is responsible for misinformation in the country? Like, for instance, if you as a fact checker, say you're a freelancer and you got any information that is wrong, is there a body that governs it at all?
Okay, you mean body that governs fact checkers or misinformation?
Yes, yes.
Actually, misinformation, when you take into legal considerations, it's by law. Sometimes, like if you incite violence, of course, you'll be penalized. It's there in our constitution or in our Penal Code Act 2008. And other misinformation that is not meant to harm people, then it is very hard to hold that person accountable. But any misinformation that has the chance of perpetrating violence, causing the life of people, then you can be penalized. And if the actors is caught by law enforcement agencies, or if anybody raised legal proceeding against them. So these are the processes which is to consider. However, fact checking in South Sudan, we have DFIHEAD South Sudan under DFIHEAD with its project 211 check. It can fact check information, but now the mandate of taking legal actions, it's also limited. It's only if an information has the ability to cause violence and other hate speech, then that is there. It has been taken care of in our constitution. So anybody can file a legal proceeding against anybody perpetrating that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe in addition to that, all people here should understand that fact checking is also a subfield of journalism. So it means that it's more like a field that is being regulated by media bodies like the Media Authority and stuff like that. So there is it's more like journalism. It's just like you having investigative journalists, you having data journalists, you having people who look at solutions journalists and so forth. So it is not an independent field, but it is a subfield of journalism. And then Ochaya, there are some
yes,
questions.
Moga, let me. Okay.
Yeah, there are some questions. Somebody is asking, how do publishers do fact checking to prevent inaccurate content from being published? No. You cannot stop inaccurate content from being published. People will fake news is there. It's part of the society. So always people will publish inaccurate content, even including well-established media organizations. Even you've seen iRadio are making a lot of mistakes every now and then and making apologies and so forth. So they present inaccurate content. So what happened is people have to put the approaches that Ochaya earlier explained. They have to put those approaches in place. We have to see that there are clear editorial policies. To realize that there are a lot of publications that happen without due considerations for editorial processes that are put in place, like Ochaya said earlier. Some people will not present their report to a copy editor, which then goes to a managing editor and then to the chief editor. They will just rush and then publish the content. So this is very dangerous for a well-established media. And so for that to be prevented, all media institutions or publishing organizations should ensure that the editorial processes are followed, proper research is done, the report is published to the copy editor, to the managing editor, to the copy editor, to the chief editor, and then before it's put out to the audience. That is how you can do that. And then another question is how can I identify fake and real news? That was already addressed, I think, during the session. Probably you might have missed, but you will see that later in the session. And then Ochaya, there's another question here is saying that under dangers of malinformation, whose reputation is going to be damaged? The actors who are responsible for circulating such information, or both the actors and the person or institution whose reputation is being damaged? That is the question.
Okay, in that's it's done.
Yeah, you can answer it.
Yes, done. To me, I think the first victim is the person that the actors of misinformation is using the information against them, is the victim, and the person that information talks about, whether an institution or an individual, is the primary victim of that circumstances, because that information damages his or her reputation. That's one. Number two, the actors that is spreading that information will also have some level of reputational damage based on that people will not have trust in the information that they provide, or any content that comes from them is being regarded as false or not true. So also they have their integrity degraded by people who also have that capability of weighing the credibility of the content that they produce to the public. So to me, the first primary victim of the reputational damage is the person that the information talks about. Then on the other hand, the person who spread that information will also have another level of reputational damage, because people will not start to have that trust on their institution or the information that they represent. Then at the end of the day, people will look at them with negativity. I think that's clear. Bida, are you there?
Yeah, it is clear. And then we have a hand from Rogers. Yes, Rogers, what is your question?
I see Rogers.
Yes, good afternoon. Mine is just a simple question, because I'm not in the field of journalism, but I would like to know, South Sudan has, if yes, what it's called and where they're located? If no, why? Thank you.
Come again. You were breaking, Rogers. You can bring back your question.
I'm saying as a country, does South Sudan has an independent news agency? Like in Sudan, we used to have SUNA. In the old Sudan, it used to be called SUNA. Does South Sudan has its own news agency? If yes, where it's located and what do they call it? If no, why we are not having it? Thank you.
Okay. South Sudan does not have established news agency, simply because nobody has thought of establishing, or the policymakers or anybody is not thinking of establishing news agency. First of all, news agency, this is a very big organization where other media house relies on them for news or any information for public consumption. And a news agency to establish it has that element of financial capacity, where you have to put a lot of resources, infrastructure, you have human resource to make sure they gather information in real time. But most of the media house here, these are just media house. They are not news agencies. If you look at news agencies like Reuters, AP, Associated Press, we have the one of France, Agence France Presse. So these are established news agencies. They are everywhere around the world. You'll find the report breaking news. That's even the media, the local media don't have access to, simply because they have a diversified network of reporters and journalists who give them information, first-hand information in real time. So we don't have a news agency in South Sudan, based on the facts that nobody has thought of establishing, and also maybe because of financial constraint that makes somebody not to think of establishing. Vida, you can reinforce.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think your explanation is in-depth. Somebody is asking whether disinformation is the same as propaganda. Is disinformation same as propaganda?
Yeah, disinformation is actually the same as propaganda, because when you look at propaganda, propaganda is not near truth. Actually, if it is true information, then that information is being used to influence or to achieve a certain objective. For example, let me use this for example here. You'll find that the state media, the media that is being run by government, does not talk about the bad thing the government does not talk about corruption, does not talk about any abuses that is being done in public offices. However, you'll find that content is more of any development, just something that makes you to feel that there is nothing going on wrong. So you'll find that at the end of the day, the real situation is not being reflected in the state's media. You find that there is difference between the content being produced by state-sponsored media and private entity. So their content is totally different. Also, actors use this information as a propaganda to advance or to make sure that they influence you in a way that you will not understand the reality on the ground. However, they will drive you towards their direction, which they have a certain objective to achieve, with intention to have a certain objective. When you look at other content being presented, like when you look at the fighting going on in Ukraine, you'll find that the media narratives from Russia is talking about the threats that Ukraine present to their integrity. So you'll find that the sponsor citizens inside their country believe that, in fact, these people, they are a real threat to our country. And yet they have not done anything against them in terms of attacking and all this, but they spread that information to keep control. And yet it's disinforming also. Yes, Vida, you can reinforce.
Okay. Thank you so much. I just saw a very funny question in the chat box. Somebody's asking whether it is safe to contact a victim of malinformation to verify the fact. I think if you followed Jackson's explanation clearly, he said that with malinformation, the information is true, but it should have been in private sphere. It shouldn't have been exposed to the public. So there's no need for you to contact the victim to verify, because obviously the information is true. What do you think?
Yeah, malinformation is true information. As I said earlier, this is true information or true event, but it's not meant for the public consumption. This is action done in private. It's just for the people who are involved or individual doing it. However, in a certain way, it has come out to public domain. This is very dangerous to that person, and it is not meant to be public. So in this case, it is very hard for you to take control of the content that has come to public domain. So whether it is damaging or what, it has come up, but this is something meant public.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I have shared the attendance in the chat box. Please do fill. Meanwhile, the break is over, and Ochaya, you can continue with the last part of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. We dive into another subtopics, which is the ethics and code of conduct for fact checkers or fact checking. If you are a fact checker, there are parameters that your work resolve around. This prevents you from going outside the boundaries that you are supposed to go. So it directs you straight to what you are supposed to do. It's the same as in a newsroom, there are editorial policy that you follow. As fact checking, there are also other principles that you have to follow in order for you to produce a good result or to achieve the interest of fact checking. So one of it being is the accuracy. Make sure you always remain accurate or truthful to the standard. Another thing, objectivity. If through your content that you produce, fact checking principles or code of conduct doesn't allow that. Also, make sure you be fair. You don't portray people in a negative light in favor of a certain group or in favor of an opponent. You balance the situation and make sure it is fair and it is as it is. Then thirdly or fourthly, we have transparency. Make sure your sources are clear. This is the source you got the information from. This is the evidence you got from a certain source and how you got it and why you got it. You must be transparent in all your presentation, all your report, all your news must be transparent for the public to know that this is real and this is correct. So these are the principles you will follow. Then you have impartiality. Make sure you have the level of independence from any interest, whether being in political or economical. This is also the same in journalism, where you have that level of independence from other actors that influence you through their actions or through their maneuver. They will influence you to make sure you divert the content into their favor, or make sure you don't report against them. Always you favor them in your reporting. It means if you do that, your integrity has been compromised. You are no longer independent of your work, but you are working for a certain interest. We are continuing. So fact checkers should always ensure all their work is accurate and it is open for any public scrutiny, or if there is anything that you presented but another evidence has come up, make sure you revise and update it. Always you remain unbiased in the reporting. You should not take side on an issue. Even if you have conflict of interest, remain independent. So then always make sure your methods of doing things should be clear. How you get to that source and how you sorted out any bias, it must be clear to the public to understand. Finally, make sure you don't represent any political interest. Make sure you remain standard to the code of conduct of fact-checking principle or the editorial policy of the fact-checking desk or the newsroom. Don't be an agent of bias, always remain within that principle. Then finally, we have the legal obligations involved in fact-checking. If you have a checker, make sure you know that laws also applies, but it should not be against you. You should use it to make sure you don't commit any offense or a crime. So in fact-checking, laws applies in areas to do with defamation. If your fact-checking reports is damaging or defaming an individual or institution, if you author a statement or reporting in written form that is so damaging to an individual or entity, then you are liable for defamation case. Or if you also recorded an audio or any video and you appear to put somebody in a bad light, and yet it is not true, then you will fall under defamation. Defamation is always you present false information against an individual or institution, and yet there is no evidence to back up that information. Then at the end of the day, you fall under defamation law. Then copyright. Make sure you don't copy somebody's work. If you use somebody's material, make sure you reference, make sure you source or you quote where you got that material from. Don't copy somebody's work and take it as your own. At the end of the day, laws will come against you. That person may claim his or her rights, and you have to be liable for what you have done. Always make sure you give credit where it is due. Don't take someone's credit for your favor. It's not good. Always, there is also privacy. You don't involve into a privacy of an individual. Don't invade in privacy of an individual or an institution. Keep the line of how you get that information. Use public means to get that information. Don't involve into invading somebody's privacy. You will be in trouble. The laws also applies in privacy. However, you can invade the privacy of an individual or an institution if in fact that information or your act is in public interest, and it is something that the public have to know, and without which it's actually compromised the integrity of public trust. This is where now you will evade the privacy of an individual or an institution. For example, you invade all the privacy of an individual if that person is doing something against the law in his or her private setting. It could be his or her home, but the action that person is doing is against public law and it is of public interest, whether it being domestic violence or gender-based violence, or that person is doing committing like defilement, going around with young ladies around. So you can follow that person and make sure you bring that into light, because what he or she is doing is against the law also. This is where now you will fall at the advantage of the law by using the right procedure. Again, you invade the privacy of an institution if that institution involves into acts that compromise public trust, like people in public office, like leaders. They are involved in serious corruptions where money is being diverted from public account into individual projects. Then you employ your tactics of getting evidence how that corruption has been done or how it is being done. So you use your private means of acquiring that information, and this is because of public interest. You are doing it not for your individual interest, it is for your public interest. These are some of the circumstances that laws allows you to invade the privacy of an individual or an institution. And protectors are to ensure that all sources, make sure your sources are reliable, they are trustworthy, and you should prevent any spread of disinformation or false information. This is the legal obligations you have to put yourself into if you are in a fact-checking desk or you are trying to spread information on public domain. So this is the last subsets we have, and I've seen somebody has raised his hand, and this is the time for questions and answers, any clarification or anything. Vida, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you so much. Well done. That was an excellent presentation, one of the best we have had since the start of this training. Thank you so much. for that. So guys, if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or you can type it in the chat box. If you would also want to unmute, if you also want to make any comments, you can also raise your hand, or you can just leave your comment in the chat box. So if you have other issues, if you want to get in touch with Ochaya, his email is there. You can text him via that email, or you can reach out to him via WhatsApp. He's also in the training WhatsApp group. Otherwise, it's been an excellent training. We have 19 minutes to wrap up this training. So if you have any questions, please do ask.
I see Sado. There is a question in the chat box applied to misinformation source. Are you guys getting me? Beda.
Yeah, I see the question. The question says, what laws does our government apply to misinformation source? Like, I don't know what it means. I don't know whether you have understood the question.
I understood the question. However, as we said before, misinformation, this is false information, but without the intention to harm or to cause any violence to that entity which the information is targeting. However, when the information is being presented from a certain source, but that information has the potential to cause violence, of course, or that information has element of hate speech, of course, there is a provision in Constitution about that talks about hate speech that incite violence. So it is there. So that source may fall along that jurisdiction in our Constitution. So that's what I can answer. But any misinformation that does not cause any harm to anybody, I don't think there's any law that's applied to. Yes, Bida, you can.
Okay, great. I don't think there's any other question that needs to be addressed. I see Agwek.
Yes, Bida. Well,
go ahead, Agwek.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. It's a very good presentation. I really enjoyed, a very wonderful part of this course. However,
thank you very much.
There are these issues mostly they're common nowadays. Someone may be creating a fake account, and then he or she will be, defaming people, speaking about other people, trying to create also fake news and propagandas. So, as members of such a society, is there a way we can be able to trace, know exactly maybe who is using that fake account, to defame other people?
Of course, there are ways of establishing that. However, there is also a limitation whereby you cannot dig deeper. For example, if a certain page is spreading propaganda or hate speech or misinformation, you go and check their profile if they have any open source information about them, like what kind of media house is them, or they represent which institution. So these are the ways that you use to find out who are they. However, if they are anonymous, they put their setting into anonymous sources, then it is very hard to get somebody who is anonymous, because in that case, he or she has made that setting in a way that you will not know who is behind this page or who is behind this information. So this is one of also the challenges that I said earlier, that the other thing you will not do, the other thing you'll do. So to establish, the only thing you check that the profile of that person, whether it's Facebook page, Twitter, what information do they have that is made public on their page. Then you use that to find out. Then you check also the connection around, the friends around, or people who are following that page. What category of people are they, and what institution they represent, or what affiliation do they have in outside following that page. So this is where you use now open source to investigate the people around that page. But to get somebody who has made that setting anonymous, it is very hard to establish. Yes, let me know if I've answered. Bida, you can also reinforce.
Yeah, actually, you have answered me well. And this is a common challenge we have currently, especially now in the context of South Sudan, where there are so many issues, communal conflicts, and issues, someone like personal problem. So people be going around creating a fake account and then trying to, defame and spreading propaganda. So I think, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, John. There is Wilson Kenny. As a fact checker, how can I stop misinformation being spread? Yes, Wilson, you can stop misinformation by not sharing it on your timeline, or by also spreading the message of that misinformation should not be shared before the person has analyzed it. You use the network around you. Whenever you sit with friends around, you always talks about them, how misinformation, or if you have any content that is misinforming, then you show them, tell them that this content is not true, it is false. So don't share this content or don't involve into such thing. And also, as a fact checker, you can stop misinformation by always countering misinformation by doing fact checking. Any information that is not true, you make sure you counter. Whether it is Facebook page, make sure you counter through your comments, or you research and get the truth and post the evidence in the comment section. Then that person, people who are following, will get to know that, okay, this is not true. The truth has been exposed here. So these are the things you do at your individual level. As a fact checker, you also do your fact check and produce the report. If you are in a newsroom where there is fact checking desk, or you are working in an organization as fact checker, or you use your own social media accounts to debunk those misinformation going around. Okay, these are the things you use to stop or to make sure other audience also know that misinformation element is not good for our society. You will help those who are following that page. You will help people who might be falling victim by consuming that information. Let me hope this is correct, Wilson.
Yeah,
then,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Then we have Mandenya Samuel, still on the issue of contacting the victim of disinformation. What if the issue has become of public interest? Can a fact checker reach out to the person for clarification? Sorry. Of course, you have to reach out if it's now, it has gone into another dimension. You always find out if, in fact, this is true or false. That's why I said you consult either expert or other sources if this information is true. If you have access to the victim of this information, of course, you reach out and find out to hear their response or their side of the story in regards to what has been presented to the public domain. So there is no limitation for you to contact sources or to reach out to the victim. However, it depends how that person may respond to your request. Whether you say accept immediately or refer you, or you will have access or not, it's also another challenge. But for you to contact, you can contact and find out the side of the story. Let me hope that's clear. Samuel.
Yeah, I got it. It's clear.
Okay.
It's granted, sir.
Yes. Any question? Any clarification?
Okay. Looks like there are no more questions. Yeah. So what is very important is I know people will always, like, when they see someone posting maybe against them or against their institution, they will want to know who is behind a particular thing. So, like, for people behind particular campaigns to identify, it takes a level of effort, which includes social engineering, for you to be able to figure out like who exactly is behind a particular thing. So, and then also with respect to the community guidelines and privacy laws of those individual, for instance, tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and stuff like that. Even Facebook themselves, they cannot tell you who exactly is behind a particular page or stuff like that. So because it goes against the privacy which they have guaranteed all their users. So in most cases, we just do what we can do, and then we leave the rest. Otherwise, thank you all for the questions. We have already shared the presentation in the Google Classroom, so you can check them through at your free time. We wish you the very best of your afternoon, and maybe if Jackson has last remarks, and then I close the call.
Yeah, what I can say is that let us be curious about how we consume information, and we should also help others with the knowledge that we have. Make sure you share within your networks so that other people will also get to understand how misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation affects the life of people in society. There are others who lost a lot of money because they were scammed, they did not have correct information. So help the network around you to understand this, and also tell them to spread the message. This is for our own safety and for the benefit of our society. Information of today, it has a lot of elements. There is pollution and all this. So it is very hard to trust the source of the information coming around. Make sure you help others by having this little knowledge to share with other people around you and guide them how they consume the content. Before you share any information, establish that this is correct information and it is reliable information. Any fact checks or any claims you forward it to the group so that it can be fact checked, or you will be given a clear clarification of how it is. Then after that, you help it by using your personal accounts to do the right thing, to counter, always counter fake news, disinformation, malinformation on different platform where you follow. If you have that element, if that page has that element of disinforming, misinforming, then you counter through your comments. You screenshot, you also share on your timeline, talk about it. This is not right. This is false. This is the right thing. So these are the things you use at your individual level to help also other people to understand this thing. So this is my last message, and thank you very much for being part of this session. I appreciate you being here, and always stay blessed.
Thank you, Jackson. I'm really so excited